Yay. So shall I start? All right. I think that's me. So welcome everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Hadley. This is such an opportunity for me to connect with you guys and to just share a little bit about the Niles Foundation and what we do and how you guys can get involved. So we are the Niles Foundation. We are focusing on leadership and achieving environmental justice in our community. And so I'm going to walk you through our journey over the last 2 years. So Hadley, you can, if you can go to the next slide. So I know it's a little bit blurry, so bear with me. There we go, yay. So we were founded in 2019. Our sole focus was to increase equity and environmental, for food access, for our community period, and it was for those who needed it most. So we started thinking about, okay, what is Los Angeles need? And we started thinking we need better programs, we need more equity, we need environmental awareness, we need food access, we need to develop our community. And something that is so close to my heart is servant leadership. I believe that in order for us to lead others well, number one, we have to be able to lead ourselves, but be willing to serve others so that they can get to where they're going. And I think that's been one of our greatest success. And of course, long-term solutions. The Niles Foundation is here not because we're trying to stick a Band-Aid on anything. We want the things that we're trying to develop to last a lifetime for our children, their children, for our children's children. And I know that might seem very cliche, but it's very true. And unfortunately, if our environment isn't shown that love, isn't shown that awareness and that togetherness, then we may not have it in the future. So I think that's one of our biggest parts of why we do the work that we do. You can go to the next slide, Hadley. Next slide. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So, oh, thank you. So the beginning of the Niles Foundation, and actually every photo that you will see in this slide are actual photos of the work that we did. And Brianna, I'm gonna call you out right now because Brianna is one of our biggest reasons why we're even here today. And if you can look at the girl to your right with the white t-shirt and the long hair, that's Brianna. She's actually on one of our farm sites or park sites that we would actually build here in Los Angeles. And all the orange jackets are Caltrans. We partnered with Caltrans, we partnered with Adopt a Highway, and then of course our board members was there and some of our fellows that were there. So again, Brianna, you're a rock star. Thank you for that. But our beginning came through us partnering. We began building one step at a time. We started transforming unused spaces or empty spaces into numerous urban farms and gardens. Then we started creating food access so that we can feed our community and donate food and give a safe space for people to grow their own food. We started planting thousands of pollinators, herbs, vegetation, and trees. And then we began collaborating to build this local park, which is in this picture. Then that turned into us bringing solar on multifamily affordable housing. So here in Los Angeles and lots of places, there's affordable housing. And so we are bringing solar access so that not only do the property owners, not only do the tenants, also the children who live in the building can benefit by learning how to install solar panels, and they get paid for that. So we started bringing that program, which led into us creating more local and green jobs, especially for our youth and also our adults. And then that turned into us developing new land for affordable housing. And so the biggest part of our success, the biggest part of leadership for the Niles Foundation, and I would say any leadership out there, is you have to partner, you have to find alliances, you have to connect with people that share your same value. And for us, it was Caltrans, it was Adopt a Highway, it was LATTC, where I'm at right now, their architect, infrastructure school, and then it was SOMA, which is solar on affordable housing. And then it was a high school, which is literally across the Medical High School, EXP Realtor. We have a realtor on our board, which gave us a lot of access to Los Angeles, and then California Climate Corps, which is how I got to Brianna. So for us, everything has been us just doing the work, us loving the work, but us not being afraid to connect with people who shared that same alliance so that we could be the best that we could be for our community and to give the most so that everyone can benefit, to even out those floors. Okay, next slide.
Hopefully it goes through.
There we go. So our next slide is really, really important to the Niles Foundation. And for a lot of you guys listening, I'm sure you've heard this word. I'm sure you've probably studied with this, but this is really important for us. The Niles Foundation takes stewardship over everything that we do. We take responsibility, we're accountable, and we love doing that because that's how we've learned to adapt. That's how we've learned to grow. And we've listened to our community. That's been a lot of our leadership style. It's been a lot of our technique, and we've been open to collaborating. But it's really understanding where you are and whatever it is that you're creating. So for us, we started increasing the number of urban gardens and farms located in LA and South Los Angeles. It was mainly to decrease food insecurity, but it also became the greatest benefit to our environment, our air, our trees, our soil, our pollinators. It is all 360. It is a holistic point of view. And we realized that in order to get where we're going to create a better environment for all, it has to be collective. It can't just be one part. And we started looking at that. So from that, it turned into us increasing the number of trees we planted so that we can make sure that our air quality is great, especially with highways, traffic, vehicles. And then the next part of that was us educating and creating environmental action that gave our community members voices. Sometimes it's really hard for your voice to be echoed, but if you are looking for an opportunity to echo your voice or to create change, come to us, see us, this is what we're about. And then part of that turned into us increasing solar and clean energy incentives for our property owners, for our renters, and then even children this year. So that's a huge incentive for us. So if you're into the clean energy aspect of our environmental health, that's really huge. And you can connect with us on there. Another part is decreasing emissions. And then of course, increasing industry leading jobs in our green fields, our green careers for our students, and especially for our underrepresented and disadvantaged communities. We're very, very proactive about everything that we do. This picture here on this slide is an actual farm site. There's actually 6 garden boxes. You can only see 4, but this high school is right across from where I'm at. It's called Orthos, and this is their very first intro to urban farming. So you can't see it in here, but they have access to now Swiss chard, to strawberries, to melons, to spinach, that they can actually take this food, go home and come back and learn how to increase this in other places. So this is just one of our schools that we partnered with, and we're looking to partner with more. I'm ready for the next slide, Hadley. Now, remember when I talked earlier about long-term solutions? This page right here just focuses on where our time is spent in creating those long-term solutions. So of course, we can always use more help. And a lot of our success has come from our volunteers, from our interns, from environmental enthusiasts, our partners, our collaborators, new projects, and help in any way that the community wants to give to us. So our greatest area of focus for us is just LA greening and the events and outreach that we create. 50% of the work that we do with the Niles Foundation is strictly on however we can green, however we can do events to share that awareness, and how far we can outreach. And today is a big example of that. The next greatest example is fresh food access. We're always trying to create ways where no one has to be hungry, that people can learn to be food sovereign, that we can definitely make sure that our soil is clean, our air is clean, our water. That's the holistic point of view that we have taken, so that we can create other streams and other revenues for others to either become participants, to become collaborators, to volunteer, to be interns for jobs. And then of course, solar and clean energy incentives has become our third biggest part of the work that we do. And of course, green jobs creation, and then tree planting. So originally when we were founded, we're more of a youth entrepreneurship foundation. We were focused on the human aspect and social services, but COVID changed that, because while we thought that that was important, our environment spoke miles and miles of need. And so we've kind of listened to that, we adapted, and this is where our long-term solutions have come. And we even have new projects, meaning land projects, that we're going to be developing. So maybe some of you guys out there want to be a part of that. Hadley, I'm ready for the next one. And here is our team. So we are a mighty team of 4, small in number, but big in impact. And we are looking to grow this number of board members, of interns, of job seekers. So again, I'm always championing, if you just have a thought and you think that we could be of help, please reach out. But of course, I'm Shante Walker, the founder and CEO of the Niles Foundation. This is Washana. She is our strategic planner, our director, Jacoby, and then of course, our program support manager, Kaylin. And they're all here actually today at this event, except for Kaylin. Kaylin has another project to share who we are with our community, so that you can see us and identify us if you ever see us out in the community. Next. And last but not least, contact us. We are based in Culver City. We are never really in that office space, but if you need to contact us, you can always find us by phone. You can always find us by email. You can even get on our website and contact us. Me or one of our other team members will pick up that phone. But we encourage you guys to reach out, ask us questions. If you've got projects that you'd like to develop, let us know. I have a student here at LATTC who is building a community garden. She called me and she said, hey, I know you do this, can you help? And I said, yes, I can help. So you guys might have some projects out there that you want us to take a look at, get some advice, help out, or maybe you have some interest in the things that we're doing. Please connect, do not be shy. We would love to connect with in any way. So I am done. Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me or reach out.
Yes, thank you so much for that presentation. I know I'm sure that a lot of us here today have some questions. I know I do, just to follow up on everything you talked about. Yeah. I was just hoping to start, if you could just give us an insight on how you came to 2019, starting the Niles Foundation. What did your journey look like up until that point?
Oh, great question. So I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, and I have probably worked in every industry you can think of, from entertainment to luxury cars, as an educator, as an administrative assistant, as I have worked my way through everything. But the one common problem that I continued to find was that I was working a job. It wasn't my career. I was always helping someone else advance, but it never stuck to me intrinsically. It didn't fulfill me. And I kind of knew it was a step. I had no idea what it is that I was going to do. I'm a musician. That's really my background. My entire family, we're creatives and we're artists. But what I realized is that it wasn't about my singing ability or my voice. It was more about using my voice as a platform to help others. And I started noticing a huge need, not only from Los Angeles, but to the Valley, from East Los Angeles to West Los Angeles. There were a lot of uneven things that I saw, and I said, okay, how can I be of service? And so in my last job that I was working, I was actually in Montreal. And so I was working this job overseas, and I realized that I didn't want to work for anyone else anymore. Sorry, there's people in the background, students, but I didn't really want to work for anybody anymore. And I had found my calling. I just didn't know how it was going to work. But I just jumped out on a leap of faith. And in 2019, that's when it hit me. I said, I got to start my foundation. This is what it's going to be. And soon enough, literally, as I made that decision, I filed all my paperwork and it was approved within less than 2 weeks. And that's almost unheard of with the state of California, especially when you're working with the government. And so I just really got tired of doing things that weren't fulfilling and they weren't really supporting anything. I've never been one to work a job for just a paycheck, but I felt like there were so many areas that I could help with in my skill level, in my education. And the best way that I knew how to do it is for me to do it myself. So I took it upon myself to say, okay, I'm gonna do this. And we started with youth entrepreneurship after 2019 in September. COVID hit in March of 2020. So we really only had about, 4 or 5 months to kind of get things together. And soon enough, as once we started walking down the sustainability and fresh food access road, our entire world through COVID just sprung up like no one's business. And it's kind of taken over everything that we've done. So, you may have one direction, but we've learned to listen even if it's different from the direction you have. And so we weren't afraid to try something different than what we originally planned. And then sure enough, this is what has come.
Oh, I think we might have lost Hadley all of a sudden. I have a great question that came in, and it says, what does environmental justice mean to you, Shante?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. For environmental justice, I find it so close to my heart because here in Los Angeles, we have a multitude of hundreds of concept levels when it comes to our environment. And sometimes you have no idea where to start. So for me, environmental justice means being able to advocate for something that is close to you, where you are able to make change, whether it's outreach, whether it's awareness, whether it's being able to start your own community garden. It's, I can't even begin to think about environmental justice on such a grand scale, because that means so many different things to people. But the greatest thing that I can think of when it comes to environmental justice is action and long-term solutions for whatever community you live in. It may not be Los Angeles, but it might be another state or even another country. It means fighting for something that is right, that you believe in, but not being afraid to make the change, not being afraid to connect in some ways so that you can, even if it's just that small little garden that you start with, so be it. It's about being able to create change on whichever level that you're able to do that on.
Oh, fantastic. And I think a follow-up to that was COVID a barrier in that fight for environmental justice?
A huge one, a huge one, but it was a double-edged sword, because while we could not be outside, even though they encourage you to be outside, you really couldn't be outside of the home. We found that was our greatest success because there were so many people in need, and there were people struggling for food. There were people struggling for bills. There were people just trying to survive for their family. And it was almost our growth spurt because we were able to give our community something that they didn't have. And that was a safe space to grow their food, a free space to grow their food, and a safe space to be outdoors where they can have access to fresh food. And that was really the beginning of our environmental justice fight, because we realized that no family, no individual, no student, no person should ever have to go without food, and should always have a safe space to be able to grow food. So we think that for COVID, it was a huge challenge, but also our great success.
Brilliant. And Aria asked, what's on the horizon for TNF and upcoming projects?
Ooh, I love that question. So I mentioned before that we have land. We purchased about 5 acres of land. They're each about 2.5 acres, and they're about 10 blocks away from each other. Now, they're not in our ideal areas, but we are focusing on building them for farming, agriculture, where we can actually take students and actually teach them about farming and agriculture. And then we're also starting a farmers market, which is local, right around the corner from LATTC. It's a park that we have. But I think with our lots that we're trying to develop, we want to develop a community facility and affordable housing. So hopefully we can look forward to some affordable housing building, but green buildings, sustainable buildings that have clean energy access, that have EV charging. And so we're partnering with developers, we're partnering with engineers and architects here in Los Angeles, like the ULI, which is the Urban Land Institute, AIA, which is here in Los Angeles, an architect institute. And so that's our biggest next project. Our small next project would be the local farmers market for farmers and growers to actually provide fresh food access. But we're excited about potentially building these community developments for community use in a green building way.
Ooh, I think that leads right into the next question, which is what's been the most rewarding part of working with outside organizations, and what are some of the most important lessons you've learned from others? Great question from Megan Higgins.
Yes. Okay. So, wow. So the biggest thing that we've learned, I think, was that the first part, or was that the second part of the question?
Either one. What's been the most rewarding, and then what have you learned? Yes.
Okay, so I think what's been the most rewarding for me personally, I think my board members might have different things to say, but the most rewarding thing for me is for our interns, our fellows, our volunteers, and our workers to have learned something from us and then have passed that on. They've taken it and they've actually grown from that. Like being able to see Brianna on here, being able to see Carrie, and to see that this is also part of the things that they're passionate and that they love. That is the most, it doesn't get any better than that for me, because that's why we're here. We're here to share what we're doing so that other people can take it on and they can pass it on, and they can go off and create their own projects, creating a soldier and a team of environmentalists and enthusiasts, so that they can go off to create even better projects than what we're doing. And then what I have learned from working with our partners, or really anyone, I should say. That's a good one. I would say the thing that we have learned the most is to allow the people that work with us to also be part of the behind the scenes. I think one of the things that we have not been able to do is allow for a lot of our partners, our volunteers, our interns, and our job seekers. We take on the big brunt of the work as a foundation, but they never really get to see the behind the scenes work. And I think that makes all the work that they do even more important. They don't see the grant applications. They don't see the phone calls. They don't see all the thousands of emails. They don't see the, the challenges between collaboration. And I think that that's important too, because then it gives them a whole picture rather than just a half picture of the work that they do. So we are learning to be more inclusive and to include them more in that the backside of the project, so that going forward, they can understand even on a deeper level, the work that they're doing and what.
Thank you so much. And Aria has another question. Can you give us a look into fundraising for these projects? What makes them possible?
15 to 20 pages of writing. That's what makes this possible. No, but okay. So the grant writing and the projects that we do, it takes a team to kind of write this and to develop it. But I think what we've learned the most in this process of grant writing and our projects is that you have to make sure whatever grants and projects that you're working on, that they really align with what it is that the grant funder is actually looking for you to do. Now, I know a lot of organizations out there tailor and say, oh, well, we can do this and we can do this. But sometimes you have 1,000 people competing against you at the same time, or hundreds of thousands, and you have to be able to stick out like a sore thumb or a butterfly, whichever way you look at it. But I think what's most important to us and what we found is that whenever we are looking at projects and funding, whether it's 5,000 or 500,000, that you really align, and that the projects that you are going to have to complete really sing your praise. It's the work that you've done, the work you can do, the work that your team has done, and being able to have the capacity to, you know, pull that grant or project off, because they're going to be looking to you to give them updates. They're going to be looking to you for you to give them reports, and you don't want to be caught out there without your book in your hand or your project ready. So I think most importantly, when you're looking at funding, definitely be honest. Be as honest as possible. Have a team around you. And don't be afraid to be honest with yourself about whether you can do it or not. And also collaborate with others. Sometimes that's a big benefit, is whenever you are looking at funding projects, that you collaborate with someone else on the project who has that capacity and is aligned as well with you.
And Deirdre asked, do you see education, that's seminars, small projects, especially in underserving communities, city or rural, can be part of this discourse?
I missed the last of that.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Do you see education, that's seminars or small projects, especially in underserving communities, city or rural, can be part of this discourse? A lot of perception about climate is related to concentration of knowledge in cities.
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, in, like, for instance, where I'm at right now, we're right in downtown. Most of the environmental issues are centered within underserved communities, usually always, with oil wells, with freeways, with pollution, poor soil, lack of farming and gardening. And so there's no real challenge to make that environment better, right? And so this can go either way, especially when you're talking about, funding, or if you're talking about challenges. The greatest challenges are always in underserved communities, and the best way to get support and to get help is to also find out what your neighborhood councils are doing, what your local city members are doing, what your counties are doing. Sometimes you can actually find out if your city is actually doing any projects and find out how to collaborate with them to get over some of those challenges, because unfortunately, those challenges are always going to be there. And when you don't have the right amount of support to help you, it's almost like, well, what do you do? So the best way in finding that support is connect with local nonprofits and do your research on what's actually happening and who's actually doing the work, and volunteer, intern, ask if they have jobs, and then you create those alliances so that now, instead of it just being you now have a partner, and then they have another partner, and then you guys can all go in together and then create change that way.
Definitely. And I think I have the next question, which is, have you faced, I'm sure there are many challenges, but how have you dealt with any challenges surrounding the social aspect of environmental justice when there's a long history in the environmentalism movement of being very eco-centric solely?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to our social dynamics, believe it or not, when you start to have the conversation, you start to understand what people understand. Sometimes it's really hard to understand what a community really knows. You can make inferences, you can, make observations, but it isn't until you actually start to sit down and you start to have those focus groups and you start to have those surveys and you actually start to, track what people are saying. That's when you can really get ahead and start to create impact on a social level. I think that's been part of our challenge too, is because while I'm very, knowledgeable about my city and our town and our communities, it's one because I've been born and raised here. And I've, over the last, odd years, I've been kind of training myself now to pay attention. And sometimes in paying attention, you see some things you like and you see a lot of things that you don't like. So what we've tried to focus is on the things that we liked and how we could use what we like to combat what we don't like. And the best way that we've been able to create that social impact, to create that social dialogue, is focus on, like the last question that was shared about challenges in disadvantaged communities, is to offer opportunity for people to share their voice. And so we are going to be working on a project that allows our community to share that voice so that we can really understand what our community is really facing, what their day-to-day looks like, because it may be different from what I'm looking at, or it may be different from what the neighbor looks at, and figuring out how we can create a platform where we can all kind of move forward together socially on, just on a small level. And we've been able to also connect with organizations that have a lot more manpower and capacity building, so that now I can take the voices of our, community and give it to, these other partners who have much more power than we have.
Definitely. And I know, having been born and raised in Los Angeles myself, I know that it is definitely a unique space where there's just so much potential to do things like this. How could you see some of this work take place in other parts around the country? Because I know we have some people here who are from Pennsylvania, or even we have someone who's in the Netherlands right now, even though she moved to Santa Barbara. But how do you think that's shared? What lessons could be transferred?
Great question. So I think whenever you have passion, intuition, or some things in you to create change, always listen to that. I am a huge advocate for listening to my intuition. I am a huge advocate for listening to that voice inside me that I know is guiding me the right direction. And I'm relentless about it. So you have to kind of have this, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to back down no matter what challenges you're going to be faced, because here's the problem is that we're going to have 1,000 challenges. Well, I have to worry about this. I have to worry about that. Forget about that. Focus on how satisfying it's going to be once you actually complete that first goal. And that's what we focus on. So if you're in a different city, if you're in a different town, a state, or even a country, you probably have small community council or neighborhood the same way that we have. You might have nonprofits, local nonprofits in your area. If you don't have one, you can always start one. I can always show you what to do. You can always connect with your county to see if they have new initiatives or programs. So it's the very same approach I would take with us here in Los Angeles. I know that we have probably much more resources than a lot of other people in other states or other cities, but you can always start your own group. You can always start your own club. You can always start your own nonprofit. Don't be afraid to start something, even if it's just you and another person, even if it's just you by yourself. And I think that's part of it, is fear gets in the way of us being able to do something because it's a new territory. So if you're afraid, don't worry. There's other people out there already doing the work. You just have to find them. But whatever you can touch, whether it's a club on school side, at your university, whether it's a local nonprofit, whether it's a neighborhood council, whether it's your county, your city, your state, somebody's doing something, and something that you're passionate about. And again, we're always here too. So any way that we can guide you or give you any information or resources, we can also do that. And I can say, hey, here in Houston, there's a nonprofit doing the very same work. Why don't you connect to them? Matter of fact, I'll send them an email and I'll add you on that. Those are the type of things that we're willing to do as well too, to create that links and arms. And who knows, maybe the Niles Foundation could create a partnership with this other, nonprofit or group in a different state.
Yeah, it's very clear from just the way you talk about everything and the enthusiasm you have, and clearly, the life you bring to the Niles Foundation and the two of your interns that we have here today, that, you are just an exceptional leader. And with, if to my recollection, you got your master's in leadership. Could
Yep,
you?
psychology of leadership development.
Mhm.
And that
Okay.
what came from, so my journey through my education is a funny story. So my very first degree was in computer science, way different from psychology and leadership development. But funny enough, and it was at CSUN. It was at CSUN. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I did terrible. I had no clue what I was doing. I had no idea that I needed to be accountable. So, there was, it was just terrible. So no one ever tells you when you go to college that, you have to really connect with things that you're passionate about. It's not about the job. It's not about the money. It's about you finding a direction that's going to get you where you're going. I didn't know that at 17. So let's just say I didn't do so well, but I didn't stop. My lesson that I learned is I found out what drove me. And besides computer science, it was music and computer science was, linked up. Then it was business administration. And I said, forget all this. Let me go back to what my real love is. It became music. And then I saw that there was this amazing program on leadership development, which I've always been in leadership clubs. I've always been on some sort of team where there was access, being able to lead. That never scared me. And so I decided that in order to be a great leader, number one, I had to be able to lead myself well. And then two, I needed to learn out what that social dynamic and what that educational dynamic looked like, whether it was organizational leadership, whether it was employee development, whether it was diversity and inclusion. And so I learned all this and I said, why didn't I know about this like 5 years ago? Like, are you kidding me? But it took me actually searching out what I connected to. My mother, my father, my grandfather, nobody ever shared with me that, hey, you need to walk this direction. I always had free range to do what I want, but I knew I needed to connect with something that was going to really sing my own praises. And I think for me, leadership development psychology of this just blew my mind. And I was always in opportunities where I was leading, helping, managing, supervising, and this was just a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for me.
Definitely. And I know we had one late arrival who had also asked what new projects you're excited about, if you want to go over that again.
Yeah. Okay. So on a smaller level, we are super excited to do our own farmers market, a certified farmers market. So now our community here locally can connect to that. Number two, we are super excited to be building more urban farms and gardens. Number three, we have land that we're going to develop into community facilities and urban farming. And we are crossing our fingers for green, sustainable, affordable housing. And then we're going to see where that takes us, but we are super excited about it. And all the partnerships that we've connected with. We've made some really great partnerships with USC and here with LATTC, and even with our fellows at other schools, and even with, you guys as well too. So it's amazing for us, and we're looking forward to those projects.
Yes, and Brianna in the chat said that your story is so inspirational, and you're just so inspiring, which is so true. And on the subject of USC, how is your work planning to expand to the university level, or how do you see it connecting with that?
Oh, great. Well, that's Brianna, that's Michelle, that's Jayla, that's all of you guys out there. But I think we were just at Brianna School, Cal State Dominguez. We were there a couple of weeks ago for an Earth Festival. And I think that's gonna be part of our success is our allies, right? Being able to be on more universities, being able to find more Briannas, more Michelles, more Jaylas, and being able to continue to share our outreach and creating opportunities. We actually have an opportunity. We hope that we're selected for it, but California Climate Corps has an opportunity for us to connect with universities for fellowships and for environmental justice. And so it looks very promising. So we hope that we'll be able to do that. But, you know, it's connecting with our youth, our students, and being able to find the students who are just as passionate as the students here on this Zoom, and being able to use their arms as another platform to make connections to others. So it's really a community effort, us being able to reach out to them and being able to find students who are just as passionate so that they can go off and start building their own projects.
Definitely. And then in the chat, Deirdre asked if there are just an example of universities you are working with, just maybe I know you've worked with a few, if you wanted to list them all.
Yeah, I think we just started with our universities. We're leaning more into USC right now, which is really great. But it was CSUN, it's Cal State Dominguez, and then local local community colleges like LATTC, West LA, Santa Monica College. We're finding that. So, and then Carrie, she's out at University of Arizona. So she's another one as well too. Go Carrie. So, you know, those are just the small ones. But if any of you guys out there think that we could definitely be of help to you or support, reach out to us.
Yeah, definitely. She says she is mainly focusing on smaller community colleges, which is definitely
just as great. That is just as great.
Yes.
Let us know. And if you guys are having events or if you want to come out to any of our sites, you just let us know.
Yeah. And I'm just going to be full of questions, but I was wondering if there's any example of a time where it was your low, perhaps, since starting the Niles Foundation, where it just seemed like things were as rocky as they could be and it needed strength to push through. How did you overcome that? What caused it?
So I only caught half of that sentence, but I think I got the gist of it. So just so you guys get a real sense of how you were able to do anything if you believe, I started the Niles Foundation on $500. $500. Now, for some of you guys, that might be one unit of your college course or half a unit or a part. There was something in me that said, I've got to do this. And I knew it was going to be successful. I saw the vision because I saw all the people who needed to be helped and I knew I could help them. It took $500. It took a vision and it took me being diligent at paperwork with the state. So, you know, it came from that. And I think, you know, for you guys, it'll be even less. You guys have colleges, you guys have clubs, you guys have groups, you guys can get together 5 people and say, we're going to start this club. And next thing you know, it turns into something much, much more greater that you've never even imagined. So, you know, for us, I think that was the lowest because we didn't have any projects then. We didn't know where we were going to get our funding. I was using my savings. You know, we didn't even have partners at the time. So, and we just said, we're going to do it. I didn't even have a board at the time. I had to like wrangle in everybody. So I think the beginning for us was like our lowest because and it was still new for me. Sure, I had, you know, managed other organizations. Sure, I helped, you know, lead staffs and other leaders and helped them develop and worked at schools and colleges and, you know, but I had never run a nonprofit. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go out and do this. Where am I going to find the people? And, you know, that saying, if you build it, it will come. It is so true. I cannot, it sounds very cliche, but it's very true. If you build it, it will come. You just have to really believe in the work that you're doing and listen to you, listen to your intention, your intuition, and find the people that align with what you're doing. And whether it's $500 or $5 or 5,000 or 500,000, it will work out.
Definitely. Yeah. Some of the most visible environmental leaders that I know of, they always have those kind of success stories where you start as small as possible. You do what you can with the smallest amount you can imagine and it takes off. And then I think my last question for you, shocker, there's just one more, is if I kind of know this already, but just so everyone knows, I think the story of where the Niles Foundation got its name would be something
Yeah.
awesome.
Great question. So a lot of people, of course, know me as Shante Walker, but growing up in school, I was Shante Niles. Niles comes from my grandfather's name, which is my mother's name, and then, of course, mine. Walker is my father's. My grandfather was a huge musician throughout Los Angeles. He brought a lot of calypso music to Los Angeles. He toured with Ricky Ricardo and Tito Puentes and everybody else you can name. He knew Walt Disney, and we come from a very rich environment of music and culture and passion. And so my grandfather passed away when I was really young, and he passed away when I discovered what my true talent was, right? What my gift was, and it was music, right? But now I'm realizing the greater gift that I have is voice. It's speaking, no matter how I use it, whatever it is I can use to help others, that's the real gift. But he passed away, and I still feel him to this day. And it was just something in me that said, when I started this foundation, it needs to be the Niles Foundation because of how hard he worked to get where he was. And number two, what it represents. When I grew up in Los Angeles and I'm walking through Los Angeles, I saw so many different things. I went to school in the Valley. There was, we didn't have parks. We barely had farms. Let's say this. We didn't have any farms and gardens, and we barely had parks. We didn't have many programs. We barely had grocery stores. And I kept saying to myself, like, why is it so different? Why am I going to school in the Valley? Why don't I see what I see there here? And it stuck with me. And as I got older, as a woman, as a minority, as, just a person in Los Angeles, I said, I'm going to change that. How can I change that? What can I do to change that? And that's when the light bulb hit me, and it said, you need to build a foundation, and it needs to be called the Niles Foundation. And it's really to pay a lot of homage to, what my grandfather sacrificed to be here in America. Not only racism, not only, environmental justice, but he brought not only music, but he spoke 8 languages. He helped Paramount, studios learn how to translate music in a different language. So I was just like, wow, I could barely speak English, and he spoke 8, and it's like, okay. So I was like, I got to up my game here. And so the best way that I could show respect and honor and celebrate this heritage of not only being African-American, but being an islander, being a woman, that I could build something that can help others. And that's where the Niles Foundation came from, is just to kind of highlight, yeah, Grandpa, I still see you. And 2, that name is living on to help others get where they're going. So that's what the Niles Foundation is here for, to help other people get where they're going.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful legacy to take on, and clearly you've taken it and run with it and clearly done so much with it. So I love that story, and I'm glad everyone gets to hear it. I love the music aspect of every aspect of your life, and even in your grandfather. So yeah. But I think that's all the questions we have. We've run out of the ones in the chat, but just thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. I think we could all listen to you talk for hours. It's clear you have just such a well of just inspiration to give out. And I know we're all going to walk away having learned something new and a new appreciation for life. So thank you so much. Thank you for all the work you're doing and all the impact you're having, and bringing so many people to the table and advancing so many innovative ideas. I know that this is a time also that a lot of our students in our program are in class. So I know a lot of them really wanted to be here, and they're really going to enjoy the recording, but hopefully there can be a way for us all to connect on a bigger scale sometime soon, where you can meet them face to face in some capacity. But this has been absolutely wonderful. And just thank you again. Thank you for all that you do and for being with us here today.
Well, thank you guys for you guys. We need you just as much as you guys need us. So we're happy to be here. And any way that we could be of help to anyone, just email us or call us. And for all of you guys out there, I'm so happy you guys are here. And if you got a project that you want to do, if there's anything on your heart, do it. Do not let anyone stop you. And we're here for advice. So thank you, number one, for having the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce, number two, having the Global Climate Pledge, and three, for you guys out there in school having a passion for this type of work. We need you guys most. So thank you for being here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. For everyone who's attending today, we can provide you this recording afterwards, and we'll provide it with everyone else within our network. And I know there's a lot of opportunities to collaborate going forward. So we'll keep in touch. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Thank you.